the indirect function is pretty true to its name in that it will look at a cell, see where it's told to go, and then go. So indirectly go via one cell to get the contents of another cell. We generally would advise you rather use the offset function, except for something we're going to show you where it can jump across sheets. So just to show you the indirect function, you'll see here in cell A6 we've got B6 written, and in cell B6 we've got a number. So the indirect function, if I point at that cell there and I say OK, it returns 1.33. So Excel has gone there, seen what the address is of the actual place it must go, gone there, and then given us the answer. So if, for example, I typed D7 here, notice it says 45, because what it's gone is it said I'm looking for D7, and it's gone got the answer here. So that's similar. If I copied this down, it's now looking over here. That says D7. It goes to fetch D7. It also works with named ranges. So you can see here I've got something, the word called units. If I look here, you'll see there's something called units, which is this cell here. So it's something called a named range. The indirect function, if we use it, if you click on something with a word in it, it will check to see if there's a cell called units, and you'll see it pulls back a 10. So it's gone, looked for units, found out where the cell called units is, and then brought back the information. We can also combine things in the indirect function. So here I've got a 9, and I know that it must always look for column C and whatever's in there. So I'm going to use the indirect, and we're going to say, and over here I'm going to use ampersand or concatenate. So I'm going to put in inverted commas a C and whatever's in that cell. So you'll see it's made it into C9. And when I say OK, you'll see it says 62 because it's looking here and it's finding that cell there. Where this is particularly useful is that indirect has the ability to jump sheets. So for example, over here, if I do my indirect, you'll see it says K20 there, and I do indirect and I tell it to look there. It says first sheet because it's coming here and looking at the first sheet. But on the second sheet here, in the exact same place, I've got something and the cell says second sheet. Now firstly, just to show you, if I just want to go to empty cell and just equals to that sheet. If you look at the formula here, it says indirect to K20. So I'm going to copy this exactly, copy it. I'm going to put it in here. And notice that now that says second sheet. So what it's gone, it's looked here, it's found something that looks like a sheet name and a cell reference. So it has gone and looked up that one there. If we went in here and changed this back to a 1, now we've currently got a ref error, but that's because of the way Excel handles these little apostrophes. So I'm just going and put a apostrophe, another apostrophe in there, and you'll see it now says first sheet. So we can actually make up an address, including the sheet name and cell number, and the indirect function will go search for it. Now the most difficult thing here is coming up with exactly what does Excel want, because this has to be exactly correct. So Excel has a few rules about if there's spaces, what must happen, etc. So the easiest thing to do is, instead of you trying to create that, there's a function in Excel called address. And what address does is it takes your instructions and turns it into a valid sheet and cell reference. So in this case it's asking for the row number, so we know it's row 20. So I'm going to type in 20. Column number, now unfortunately you can't put in letters, so you need to put in the column number, so it's going to be column 11. You can already see that the address has got $K, $20. You can decide, do you want absolute numbers or not? And there's some instructions here. Do you want A1 style or R1, C1 style? You can look at those. And then the sheet text, I'm going to type indirect 1 and just put inverted commas around it. Or it can look at another cell. And you'll see it takes it and creates a valid Excel address. I'm just going to say OK. And you'll see we've got that. Now that that's working, I can go and use my indirect and tell it to look there. And when I say OK, at the moment it's looking at the first sheet. If I went in here and I put a 2 there, it goes to the second sheet. And even better, what I would do is I'd put indirect 1 in a separate cell. And for this address, I would tell it to look at that cell there. So now I can control what comes through just by changing the sheet name over here. So as long as you get the sheet name exactly right and you're very careful about how people change these, you can now get Excel to jump between sheets depending on what you want to pull through.